Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dollar Dialogue. Today, we are exploring a fascinating rivalry in the global economy, Singapore versus Hong Kong. These two cities are often described as Asia's premier financial hubs, attracting trillions of dollars in capital, thousands of multinational companies, and some of the world's top financial talent. Despite their relatively small size, the decisions made in these cities influence global investment, trade, banking, and economic growth far beyond their borders. But what actually makes a financial hub successful? Is it geography, political stability, strong institution, low taxes, or simply the ability to attract the brightest minds? And while financial centers generate enormous wealth, who truly benefits? Do they create opportunities for everyone? Or do they also bring rising living costs, inequality, and challenges for ordinary residents? Throughout today's discussion, we'll first explore why financial hubs matter and the advantages and disadvantages they bring in general. We'll then examine how Singapore built itself into one of the world's most trusted financial centers, followed by Hong Kong's rise as Asia's traditional gateway to China. Finally, we'll bring both cities head to head in a debate, comparing them across key sectors such as market access, talent attraction, foreign investment, and a lot more in this increasingly uncertain global economy. Today, we are also joined by exceptional hosts, Mr. Zumar Sheikh, Mr. Zohaan Rana, and Mr. Demir Hossain. Unfortunately, host Ms. Mohammed Kabir will not be with us today. Mohammed Arif Kabir is in the hospital. That's crazy. I feel so bad for him. Viewers, pray for him. We have a guest speaker joining us today, Mr. Zahraan Dada. He takes the rigorous IBDP in GEMS World Academy, Dubai, and he takes Economics HL and IBDP Business Management HL. He's very passionate about this topic. He knows Singapore, he knows Hong Kong. He's going to be an amazing guest speaker for us today. Mr. Zahraan Dada, would you like to add anything else to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammed Zahraan Dada. I study in GEMS World Academy in Dubai, take Economics HL, and hope to major in economics in the future. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited for today's discussion, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dada. You're so amazing. So, with that, let's begin by asking a fundamental question. Why do financial hubs matter in the first place?
Before I answer this question, I just want to thank you, Zaran, for being a guest speaker on this podcast and graciously accepting the invitation that I sent you. I've actually grown up with Zaran, and we've been at the opposite side of business discussions between our families. So, Zaran, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to Dollar Dialogue. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Zumar. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, let's get back to the main topic of discussion here for the financial hubs. Supreet asked a beautiful question. Financial hubs matter because they serve as the central points where money, business, investors, and governments come together to facilitate economic activity on a massive scale. Rather than having financial services scattered across thousands of locations, financial hubs concentrate banks, stock exchanges, investment firms, insurance companies, legal services, and financial professionals in one place. This is due to this, it creates a powerful network effect and creates economies of scale. This concentration makes it easier and cheaper for businesses to raise capital, investors, or to find opportunities, and governments to access funding. Financial hubs also act as a gateway between different economies, connecting companies with global markets and enabling the movement of capital across borders. Beyond finance itself, they generate high-skilled jobs, attract talented workers from around the world, encourage innovation, and support a wide range of related industries such as technology, consulting, accounting, and real estate. Cities such as Singapore, Hong Kong, London, and New York have become influential not only because of their financial sectors, but also because their financial sectors help drive broader economic growth and international trade. At the same time, their importance extends beyond economics. Decisions made in these cities can influence investment flows, business expansions, and even economic stability across entire regions. In today's globalized economy, financial hubs are therefore much more much more than place much more than a place where money is exchanged. They're critical infrastructures that help coordinate and sustain the functioning of modern economic systems. Now, since Zaran, today you are our guest speaker and you are currently taking the rigorous IBDP diploma, and you're heading into year two of the diploma program, and you take economics HR. I think this is a perfect question to ask you here. Financial hubs are often praised for creating growth, attracting investment, and generating high paying jobs. However, many critics argue that they can also increase inequality and make life more expensive for ordinary residents. In your view, do the benefits of becoming a major financial hub outweigh the social and economic costs that local populations often face?
I would love to answer this question, Zumar. So, in my view, the benefits of becoming a major financial hub generally do outweigh the costs, but only if the government manages those costs effectively. Financial hubs can generate significant economic growth by attracting foreign investment, creating employment opportunities, and increasing government revenues. They also tend to develop highly sophisticated financial sectors that support business activity and strengthen a country's position in the global economy. One of the most important benefits is the creation of high value economic activity. As banks, investment firms, insurance companies, and multinational corporations establish operations in a financial hub, they create demand for a wide range of services. This does not only benefit financial professionals, it also supports jobs in areas such as law, technology, consulting, hospitality, and real estate. Furthermore, governments often benefit from increased tax revenues, which can be used to improve public services and infrastructure. However, the concerns raised by critics should not be ignored. One of the most significant challenges is the rising cost of living. As wealthy individuals and international firms move into a city, demand for housing and other essential goods and services increases. This can drive up prices and make it more difficult for ordinary residents to afford housing. In addition, the gains from financial growth are often distributed unevenly, meaning that those working in high income sectors may benefit far more than lower income households, leading to greater income inequality. I think the key issue is not whether financial hubs create costs, because they certainly do, but whether governments have the policies necessary to manage them. Measures such as affordable housing programs, investment in public transport, education, and targeted social support can help ensure that a larger share of the population benefits from economic success. Ultimately, I would argue that becoming a major financial hub can be extremely beneficial for a country's economy. However, long term success should not be measured solely by financial growth, but also by whether ordinary residents are able to share in the prosperity that the financial hub creates.
Wow, that was absolutely spectacular from our guest speaker, Zaran Dada. So, just to begin this episode, I would like to say a fact regarding financial hubs to keep the audience engaged. So, fun fact is over $7 trillion worth of foreign exchange transactions are made every day worldwide, and a significant portion of these trades pass through major financial hubs such as London, which has consistently been the world's largest foreign exchange trading center. This means that more money is traded in global currency markets in a single day than the annual GDP of many countries, highlighting just how important financial hubs are to the world economy. Another fact is that the New York exchange market alone has a market capitalization of over $25 trillion, making it larger than the entire economic output of most countries on earth. So I would just like to ask my favorite guest speaker a question, Mr. Zaran Dada. If trillions of dollars move through financial hubs every day, what would happen to the global economy if one major financial hub suddenly stopped operating?
Um, if a major financial hub suddenly stopped operating, the effects would likely extend far beyond that city and could disrupt the global economy significantly. Financial hubs play a crucial role in connecting investors, businesses, banks, and governments across different markets. So a sudden interruption would affect the flow of capital and financial services on a large scale. One immediate consequence would be uncertainty in financial markets. Investors rely on major financial centers to facilitate transactions, raise capital, and manage risk. If one of these hubs were suddenly unable to function, many transactions could be delayed or canceled, causing volatility in stock, bond, and current markets. Businesses that depend on financing might also struggle to access capital, which could slow investment and economic activity. Another important impact would be on international trade and businesses operating. Large financial hubs support payments, foreign exchange transactions, and cross-border investment. If these services were disrupted, companies operating across multiple countries could face major difficulties conducting efficiently. This could reduce confidence among firms and investors, leading someone to postpone investment decisions until greater stability returns. However, it is important to recognize that the global financial system is highly interconnected. While the loss of a major hub would create significant disruption, other financial centers would likely absorb some of the activity over time. Businesses and investors tend to adapt quickly, and alternative financial centers would attempt to fill the gap. The extent of the damage would therefore depend on which hub was affected and whether the disruption was temporary or permanent. The greatest risk would be the loss of confidence. Financial systems depend heavily on trust and predictability. If a major financial hub suddenly ceased operating, uncertainty could spread through global markets, reducing investment and slowing economic growth. While the global economy would eventually adjust, the short term consequences could be severe, particularly if the hub played a central role in international finance.
That was actually very insightful, Mr. Zaran. Thank you so much. I actually learned a lot from your personal anecdote and how you explained everything super well. So, today we have so far explored how financial hubs matter and the trade offs they create. On one hand, they drive investment, innovation. Mr. Zohan Rana, do you want something? Do you want to say something before we transition on to the next segment?
Okay. I'll wait.
Yes, thanks. So we have already seen how financial hubs matter and the trade-offs they create. On one hand, they drive investment, innovation, and economic growth. On the other, they can contribute to the rising living costs for the citizens of the original country, the inequality, and increasing pressure on local communities. And this can naturally lead us to the next question. How does a country actually build a world-class financial hub while managing these challenges? There's perhaps no better case study than Singapore. Just 60 years ago, Singapore was a small island nation with virtually no natural resources. Today, it consistently ranks among the world's leading financial centers, hosts thousands of MNCs, manages trillions of dollars in assets, and has a global reputation for stability and trust. So, to unpack the story, I'd like to turn to our next host, Mr. Demir Hossain. I have a question for you because I know you visit Singapore often and you've researched a lot about this topic. So, my question is, Singapore transformed itself from a resource poor island into one of the world's most influential financial centers in just a few decades. If you had to identify the single biggest factor behind that transformation, what would it be and why?
Thank you, Supreet, for that. I would say it is the unique composition of state led policies and free market government policies. Because I think that Singapore, in improving its economy and getting to this place of economic development, it couldn't just be government intervention or it couldn't just be free market. It had to be both in some aspects, and I believe it did that quite well. As it does have free market elements, but then their government has been so strict with their policies and enacting those policies, and that the island is so uh, understanding of the government and its all of its rules, all of its ideas, that it seamlessly transformed into this economy you speak of. So, in retrospect, I would say the main thing is the unique policies they enacted and how the government established power, But this power was actually for good, as they were right in their policies and right in how they directed the country. Would anyone else like to speak?
Demir. Demir?
Yes.
Demir, you're supposed to ask a question after.
Demir, thank you so much for your input for this segment. Demir, I think I would be a perfect candidate to say something, as I was actually born in Singapore in the in the Mount Elizabeth Hospital on May 4th, 2009. Now that we've discussed why financial hubs matter and the advantages and disadvantages, let's turn our attention to what Demir was talking about, and perhaps the most successful example in the world for what is known to be a financial hub, which is Singapore. Obviously, that's why we're talking about it. I love Singapore. What's remarkable about Singapore is that it lacks many of the advantages that larger economies enjoy. It has a relatively small population, just like Ramir mentioned, a limited domestic market, and very few natural resources. But despite that, despite these challenges, Singapore has transformed itself into one of the world's most leading financial centers, completely directly competing with cities such as London, New York, and obviously Hong Kong, which is something that we'll talk about in the episode in about 10 minutes or 20 minutes or so. Much of this success can be attributed to its strategic location at the crossroads of major global trade routes, its reputation for political stability and a long, strong rule of law, and its ability to attract international businesses are highly skilled talents. Over the years, Singapore has positioned itself as a trusted gateway for investment in Southeast Asia, while also becoming a hub for banking, wealth management, and asset management. However, Singapore's success has not come without challenges. Rising housing costs, an aging population, dependence on foreign talent, and having one of the highest costs of living in the world has sparked ongoing debates whether whether it's sustainable for its economic model. So, Zaran, I have a quick question for you, as I know that you were born in the same hospital as me in Mount Elizabeth in Singapore. Zaran, do you think that looking at Singapore's rise from a small trading port to a global financial powerhouse?
Well, when I look at Singapore's rise from a small trading port to one of the world's leading financial centers, I believe the single most important factor behind its success has been its ability to build trust through strong institutions and effective governance. Singapore gained independence with very limited natural resources, a small domestic market, and significant economic uncertainty. Given those constraints, it could not rely on oil, minerals, or a large population to drive growth. Instead, it focused on creating an environment where businesses, investors, and financial institutions felt confident operating. Over time, Singapore developed a reputation for political stability, low levels of corruption, a strong legal system, and consistent economic policies. These qualities made it an attractive destination for both domestic and foreign investment. What makes this especially important is that finance is fundamentally built on confidence. Investors are far more likely to move capital into a country when they trust its institutions and believe that regulations will be applied fairly and predictably. Singapore successfully positioned itself as a place where businesses could plan for the long term without worrying about major political instability or sudden policy changes. This encouraged multinational corporations, banks, and investment firms to establish regional headquarters there. These strong institutions also amplified Singapore's other advantages. Its strategic location allowed it to connect major markets across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, while its education system and immigration policies helped attract highly skilled professionals. However, these advantages would have been far less effective without the foundation of trust and stability that Singapore established. Ultimately, while factors such as geography, talent, and openness to trade were all important, I would argue that Singapore's greatest achievement was creating a reliable and predictable environment for business. That reputation became the foundation upon which its financial sector expanded and transformed the country into a global financial powerhouse.
Wow, beautifully said. It was very organized and very insightful. So
Thank you.
thank you, Zan. So around here they call me the fact man. So I'm gonna come with a few more facts regarding this particular topic. So despite having a population of only around 6 million people and very limited natural resources, Singapore is consistently ranked among the world's leading financial hubs, alongside major cities such as New York City and London. Today, thousands of multinational corporations, investment firms, and financial institutions use Singapore as their regional headquarters for operations across Asia. Did you know more than 200 international banks operate in Singapore, including many of the world's largest financial institutions? These banks manage investments, facilitate international trade, provide loans to businesses, and connect global investors with opportunities across Asia. Singapore's reputation for political stability, strong regulations, and efficient business environment has made it a preferred location for international banking activities. I would just like to ask our dear host, Mr. Demir Akbar Hossain, because he's been very quiet. Why do global banks choose to base their Asian operations in Singapore rather than in other cities in the region?
Thank you, Zohan. So I would say
You're
the main
welcome.
driving force behind these banks' choice to implement their institutions in Singapore is because of the confidence. I would say Singapore as a nation, the consumers and then the people that go there for these economic, I guess, institutions are confident that it's not going to suddenly shift. You won't suddenly see high inflation or high deflation in this nation. It's an economically strong nation, and also the institutional and legal changes won't be drastic. You won't see a new government come in and implement different and radical policies. You can expect the same thing, same strength with Singapore throughout the foreseeable future. So I think that's one big reason. And also another big reason is it's established economic dominance in the region, right? Because we now know we see Singapore as very vast economic powerhouse in this current age. The last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, it's been one of the leading hubs. So I think because of the growth it's experienced due to its presence as a hub, it has just breeded this confidence among banks, among consumers, among producers that this will be a financially stable place. So because of these ideas and factors, I believe that is why banks choose Singapore over other areas in the nation. Also, before we end off on this part of Singapore, I would like to ask and open this to the floor. Do we believe there are any environmental implications of Singapore becoming a financial hub? And if so, what are they and how do they affect Singapore's future? Thank you.
Okay, Damir. So I would love to answer that question. And in terms of environment, there are many definitions to it. For instance, in the IBDP business management, we have two types of environment: economic environment and like the earth environment. So the economic environment refers to the living conditions, the cost of living, and the ease of living for the population living in Singapore. While the sustainability concerns is the other form. Which sustainability were you referring to?
Honestly, both. I mean, I think both are integral to the area, but you can talk about either.
Thank
Sustainability,
you.
the second one,
That
also.
makes sense. So Mr. Rana, I think, is very interested in answering this question. So go on ahead.
Yes, sustainability is. I'm very passionate regarding sustainability. I've worked with various different service learnings in my school regarding sustainability, and it's a topic I'm very passionate about. I am also a student leader for Green Team. It's a sustainability service learning, so I would like to answer this question. So yes, there are environmental implications associated with Singapore's growth as a major financial hub. On one hand, becoming a global financial center has increased economic activity, leading to the construction of office buildings, business districts, transportation infrastructures, and data centers. These developments consume large amounts of energy and resources, contributing to carbon emissions and environmental pressure. The concentration of multinational companies and frequent international travel for business can also increase Singapore's overall environmental footprint. On the other hand, Singapore has actively worked to reduce these impacts through sustainable urban planning, green building standards, and investments in in clean technologies. As a financial hub, it has also become a leader in sustainable finance, helping to fund renewable energy projects and environmentally friendly businesses across Asia. Therefore, while Singapore's rise as a financial hub has created environmental challenges, it has also provided the resources and influence needed to support sustainability initiatives. The overall impact depends on whether economic growth continues to be balanced with environmental responsibility.
That makes a lot of sense, Mr. Rana, and that's exactly it. I completely agree with you. But I also wanted to ask our guest speakers something very interesting because beyond the government policies and geography, Singapore's greatest asset is often said to be its people. And we know you were born in Singapore. So, considering this, how has Singapore attracted world class talent through education and skilled immigration?
Supreet, I genuinely love this question because it highlights something that is often overlooked when discussing Singapore's success. While people frequently focus on government policies, infrastructure, or a strategic location, none of these factors would be nearly as effective without a highly skilled and productive workforce. Singapore has invested heavily in education for decades, viewing human capital as one of its most valuable resources. Since the country lacks significant natural resources, it is recognized early on that its long term competitiveness would depend on the knowledge, skill, and adaptability of its people. As a result, Singapore developed a strong education system that places emphasis on academic achievement, technical skills, and workforce readiness. This has helped create a talent pool capable of supporting sophisticated industries such as finance, technology, and professional services, along with biotechnology. However, Singapore did not rely solely on its domestic workforce. Another key part of its strategy has been attracting skilled professionals from around the world. By maintaining a business friendly environment, high quality infrastructure, and strong career opportunities, Singapore became an attractive destination for talented individuals seeking to work in Asia. These professionals bring valuable expertise, international networks that strengthen the country's economy. What makes this particularly powerful is the interaction between local and international talent. Skilled immigrants help fill gaps in the labor market, while local workers benefit from knowledge and exposure to global best practices. This creates a highly competitive and innovative environment that attracts even more businesses and investment. Of course, this approach is not without challenges. Dependence on foreign talent can sometimes create concerns about competition for jobs and pressure on housing and public services. Policymakers therefore face the challenges of balancing economic competitiveness with social cohesion. Overall, Singapore's success demonstrates that talent is one of the most important drivers of economic development. By investing in education while simultaneously attracting skilled professionals from around the world, Singapore has built a workforce that supports its position as one of the world's leading financial and business centers.
That was actually truly fascinating, Zaran, and what you added to the discussion is truly admirable. So, we've just explored how Singapore deliberately built itself into one of the most leading financial centers through strategic policy making and relentless focus on attracting global business and building talent. But let's shift our attention to another financial giant, Hong Kong. So, for many decades, we have known how Hong Kong has been recognized as Asia's gateway to China, with more regulation and reduced control. But that raises an interesting question. Is access to China really the only reason Hong Kong became a global financial powerhouse? Or is there far more to its success than simply its geographical and economic position? With that in mind, I'd like to turn to our fabulous host, Mr. Zumar Sheikh, because I know he knows a lot about Hong Kong. And like my question is, since many people argue that Hong Kong's greatest advantage is its access to mainland China, what if China wasn't part of the equation? Would Hong Kong still stand out as a world class financial center and compete with Singapore? And what other factors have contributed to its success, and how important are they compared to its role as China's gateway?
Supreeth, thank you so much for giving me this question. I have multiple friends in Hong Kong currently studying at the Discovery College in Hong Kong, studying the International Baccalaureate diploma program, same as us, going into year 2 of the DP program. To answer your question, I think it really depends on what you mean by the word world class. If China didn't exist as a factor, Hong Kong would almost certainly still be a successful financial center because of its many strengths that are independent of China. It has a well-established common law legal system, low and relatively simple taxes, deep capital markets, a highly international business environment, and decades of experience as a trading and financial hub. These factors help build investor confidence and attributed to multinational firms long before China's economy became the global powerhouse it is today. However, I would argue that China is what transformed Hong Kong from a strong financial center into an exceptional one. Hong Kong's ability to act as a bridge between China and the rest of the world created opportunities that few other cities could offer. International investors could gain exposure to Chinese markets through a system that was generally more transparent and familiar than mainland China itself, while Chinese companies could access global capital through Hong Kong Stock Exchange and financial institutions. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is tweaking right now. Give me 1 second.
No problem, Zumar. That was actually truly
Sorry.
interesting.
Sorry, I think my Wi-Fi is fixed now. At the same time, this relationship is somewhat of a double-edged sword. China's growth has undoubtedly been one of Hong Kong's greatest strengths, but has also increased Hong Kong's dependence on the Chinese economy. As China's economy slows down and concerns about political influence grows, some investors and businesses have begun exploring alternatives such as Singapore. This raises an interesting question. Has Hong Kong's connection to China become a source of vulnerability as well as a source of strength? So overall, I would say that Hong Kong's legal framework, institutions, and global connectivity are what made it a credible financial center. But access to China is what gave it a unique value proposition. Without China, Hong Kong would still matter. With China, it becomes indispensable to many global investors and firms.
That's super interesting, Mr. Zumar. And I wanted to pass it off to either our guest speaker, Zohaan Rana, or our host, Demir Hossain, because it's truly interesting. We want to see other perspectives. And I'm sure one of you guys believe that without China, Hong Kong is truly nothing. So, yeah, that's super interesting. So, Mr. Host, Zohaan Rana, or Zahraan Rana, Zahraan Dada, would you guys like to answer? Sorry, I'm editing that out. Oh yeah, Zaran. Okay, so Zaran, the question was, would Hong Kong truly be indispensable to the world without China? Would Hong Kong stand where it is without China?
I'm very intrigued regarding this question. I really want to answer. So I completely disagree with our co-host, Mr. Zumar Sheikh. He says that Hong Kong would be still influential without China. I completely disagree with that boy.
I think you mistake me here. What I stated was that without China, Hong Kong would still be a trading hub, a financial.
That's literally what I said. That's
I
literally
believe he disagrees with that.
That I disagree with that, bro. Hong Kong would still be an influential financial hub without China. I believe that it being connected to China is what makes it very famous and very influential. So without China, Hong Kong would not stand out as a world-class financial center today. While factors such as legal system, low taxes, and developed financial infrastructure are important, many other cities possess similar advantages. What truly differentiates Hong Kong is its role as the primary gateway between China and global financial markets. China is the world's second largest economy, and Hong Kong has benefited enormously from serving as the bridge between Chinese businesses and international investors. Chinese companies account for a large share of listings on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and many global firms choose Hong Kong specifically because of its access to mainland China. Without this connection, Hong Kong would lose much of its unique competitive advantage and would face stronger competition from financial centers such as Singapore, Tokyo, and such were Shanghai.
Zohan, I never really looked at it from that perspective, and I really do see where you're coming from. Thank you so much for the insight. And
I
I believe,
appreciate it, Zumar.
and I believe, for next times, for next episode and the future episodes, we really need to keep the episodes more nuanced and more, perhaps more debatable. So, Zohan, thank you so much for opening and brightening my eyes like that. You truly have enlightened me. Now,
You're welcome.
no, yeah. Thank you, Zohan. Thank you. Now, Zahan, since you're our expert on this topic between financial hubs of Singapore and Hong Kong, I would like to ask you something for Hong Kong, even though I know that you haven't necessarily visited in a long time, nor have you had a base there. But Zahan, has Hong Kong reached a turning point with growing competition from mainland Chinese cities, increasing political integration with China, and concerns over investor confidence? Is Hong Kong's position as a leading financial hub becoming more difficult to sustain? What do you think, Zaran? I really would appreciate your input here.
Okay, so I really like this question from you, Zumar, because it addresses one of the biggest debates surrounding Hong Kong's future. I do believe Hong Kong has reached something of a turning point. The city remains one of the world's most important financial centers, but maintaining that position is becoming increasingly challenging due to a combination of economic, political, and competitive pressures. One major challenge is the growing competition from mainland Chinese cities, particularly Shanghai and Shenzhen. Over the past few decades, these cities have developed rapidly and now offer increasingly sophisticated financial services, advanced infrastructure, and direct access to China's enormous domestic market. As these financial centers continue to expand, some activities that previously flowed through Hong Kong may increasingly take place with mainland China itself. Another important factor is Hong Kong's evolving relationship with China. Historically, many international investors viewed Hong Kong as a unique bridge between China and global markets because it combined access to China with a distinct legal and regulatory framework. However, as political integration with mainland China has increased, some investors have become concerned about whether Hong Kong will continue to maintain the level of autonomy and predictability that contributed to its success. In finance, perception and confidence can be almost as important as economic fundamentals. Investor confidence is particularly crucial because financial centers depend heavily on trust. Businesses and investors want certainty regarding regulations, property rights, and the broader business environment. If uncertainty increases, some firms may choose to diversify their operations across multiple financial centers rather than relying as heavily on Hong Kong. That being said, I would not conclude that Hong Kong is in decline. The city still possesses significant strengths, including deep capital markets, a highly skilled workforce, extensive financial expertise, and strong international connectivity. It also continues to benefit from close links to the Chinese economy, which remains one of the largest and most important markets in the world. I think Hong Kong's position is becoming more difficult to sustain than it was in previous decades, but it would be premature to write off its future. The real question is whether Hong Kong can successfully adapt to a changing economic and political environment while preserving the qualities that made it a leading financial hub in the first place.
Thank you very much, Zarn. Very insightful response. So, speaking on Hong Kong, in the years from 1997 to 1998, Hong Kong experienced the famous Asian financial crisis, where Hong Kong experienced heightened records of deflation and overall experienced decrease of standard of living, so on and so forth. So, because of this Asian financial crash, my question to the board and all of these hosts here, including Zaran, the guest speaker, how can Hong Kong avoid Asian financial crash like the in 1997, 1998? How can they avoid that from happening again? Anyone would like to answer?
Demir, thank you so much for this answer, for this question, Demir. Thank you. I think during the Asian financial crisis, it's actually a really interesting case study when discussing Hong Kong because it demonstrates both the vulnerabilities and the resilience of financial hubs. During the crisis, as you mentioned, Hong Kong faced intense speculative pressure on its currency, significant decline on its stock market, and sharp contraction in economic activity. Property prices also fell dramatically, heightening how quickly confidence can evaporate in highly interconnected financial centers. However, what is perhaps more important is what Hong Kong learned from this crisis. Since then, regulators have placed a much greater emphasis on maintaining stronger foreign exchange reserves, preserving confidence in Hong Kong dollars peg to US dollars, and ensuring that banks remain well capitalized. Financial institutions today are generally subject to stricter oversight and stress testing than they were before the crisis. That said, no financial hub can completely eliminate the risk of another crisis. Financial centers are inherently exposed to global capital flows, investor settlement, and external shocks. The goal is not the goal is not necessarily to prevent every downturn, but rather to build institutions that can absorb the shocks and recover quickly when they occur. In Hong Kong's case, diversification beyond simply acting as a gateway to China, maintaining investor confidence and preserving strong regulatory standards will likely be key to reducing the likelihood and impact of future crises. So while the Asian financial crisis exposed weakness in Hong Kong's financial system, it also helped shape many of the safeguards that contribute to its resilience today. Now, Zohan, I believe you wanted to add something on?
Anyways, a key issue to consider is how Hong Kong can mitigate the risk of experiencing another financial crisis similar to the Asian financial crisis of 1997 to 1998. As a global financial hub, Hong Kong attracts substantial international capital flows, which contribute to economic growth, but also increases its exposure to external shocks and market volatility. During the crisis, speculative attacks on the Hong Kong dollar and sharp declines in asset prices demonstrated the vulnerability of high interconnected financial centers. To enhance financial stability, Hong Kong must continue to implement prudent regularity frameworks, maintain adequate foreign exchange reserves, and strengthen oversight of financial institutions. Furthermore, reducing excessive dependence on any single source of economic activity could improve long-term resilience. This highlights the trade-off faced by many financial hubs. While greater integration into global financial markets can generate significant economic benefits, it can also increase susceptibility susceptibility to financial instability during periods of economic uncertainty.
So that was actually insightful and interesting. And I learned a lot from this discussion. And I'm sure you viewers are truly engaged with the podcast. And I'm really grateful you guys are here with us today. But before we end, I have one final question to just one person, whoever they want to do it. So my question is, we have examined Singapore and Hong Kong individually. And today, now comes the final question of Dollar Dialogue. If you were advising an MNC or global investor today, which city would you recommend as Asia's premier financial hub and why? Hong Kong or Singapore?
What I really think is that, for me personally, I would much rather take Singapore as a place to put my finances in, or to invest in, because of the simple fact that Singapore's government isn't necessarily always changing its policies, and when compared to Hong Kong, as we mentioned, that the government has been more integrated towards the Chinese governmental policies. And the other thing is that, Zohan, would you like to say anything?
I'll speak when you're done.
No, I'm finished. Please, I would love to. I love hearing your voice. I just don't like to hear Demir's.
Thank you so much for that compliment. It was a very interesting compliment. And thank you for your intriguing informational statement. It is very informational, though I do disagree with you slightly. If I were advising an MNC, I would recommend Hong Kong actually. And you may ask why. Although Singapore offers a highly stable and business friendly environment, Hong Kong's unique advantage lies in its direct connection to China, the world's second largest economy. For many multinational corporations, access to such a vast consumer market and manufacturing base is a major strategic benefit. Hong Kong acts like a gateway between China and the global economy, allowing firms to raise capital, attract investors, and expand into mainland China more efficiently than from other financial centers. In addition, Hong Kong has one of the world's largest stock exchanges, a highly developed financial sector, low taxation, and a long established reputation as an international business hub. While there are risks associated with its close relationship with China, these risks are often outweighed by the opportunities that the Chinese market provides. From a business perspective, as I'm a business HL student, firms are generally willing to accept higher levels of risk if the potential returns are substantial. Although Singapore may offer greater stability, I would recommend Hong Kong because its access to China provides a competitive advantage that few other financial hubs can match. For an MNC seeking growth, investment opportunities, and access to one of the largest markets in the world, Hong Kong remains the more attractive choice over Singapore. And I would like to give the mic to our beautiful, very handsome, very intellectual, and very smart guest speaker, Mr. Mohammed Zahraan Dada, to answer the
Wait,
question.
before you pass on the mic, Mr. Zohan, I had a really interesting follow-up question to you. Even though there is this opportunity, this China opportunity, we know how competitive China really is. In fact, officially today, China has over 188 million total registered business entities. That's 1 in 12 persons. That means the MNC has to pour immense resources to compete against these other Chinese entities. Do you seriously think it is feasible for these businesses to do so?
Vast opportunities for a vast different amount of MNCs. I believe that China has over 1 billion people currently inhabiting that land. And that just shows the opportunities a business has to expand into China. Yes, I know China is competitive, but there are tons of provinces that are untapped that have great potential for MNCs to move into. And we know that China is always a reliable option.
Sorry, one thing that I just wanted to add on um, uh, for Zohan and Supreet here. The thing with the MNCs, or to Supreet's point with the how they would have many competitors, the thing with MNCs, multinational companies, is that the fact is that most of the firms that are MNCs are most likely market leaders, so they don't necessarily need to exactly worry about competitors or local competitors. However, that is not to make the business or firm too confident. It's that they still need to worry about their competitiveness and their competitive advantages, but it's just they don't need to worry as much because of the market leader or the power that a market leader holds.
Thank you for your responses, both Zumar and Zohan. But I would like to bring up the for MNCs to enter the Chinese market to Hong Kong as a hub. I would say one possible disadvantage is the high barriers of entry into some of these markets, as some of the markets in the Chinese government and Chinese economy can be seen to be dominated by companies such as Tencent, among many others. So these barriers of entries might pose to be unfavorable for entering MNCs, as they may be unable to deal with the costs. And as Zuma referenced, the market leaders can just decrease their costs until the entering MNCs cannot enter the economy anymore. So my question is, what do you guys think about the barriers to entry for these markets in China from Hong Kong as a hub? Zuma?
Now, MNCs may have a hard time approaching the barriers to entry in the market. As I said, Demir, MNCs are most likely quite large. They're a very large company that have established uh, market research, established pricing methods, established supply chains, and much more. I don't necessarily think they would have a hard time breaking the barrier to entry, as they are most likely market leaders in their local home country, in several other foreign countries, and most likely in the region.
Zaran, would you want to invest in Hong Kong or Singapore, and why? And also consider the future implications of the business.
Okay. If I had to choose one today, I would lean towards Singapore because it offers a stable political environment, strong institutions, and a high degree of investor confidence. However, Hong Kong could potentially offer greater upside if its close ties to China's economy continue to generate growth and investment opportunities.
That's super interesting, Zaran,
Wow.
because I know you operate a major
Spectacular.
business in Bangladesh. So I was wondering whether you would consider expanding to Singapore in reality.
Sorry, what?
I know you operate a major business in Bangladesh. So I was considering whether you would expand onto Singapore or Hong Kong in reality.
Oh, okay. So I think I would, if I were making a real investment decision today, I would personally choose Singapore, although I think both cities offer compelling opportunities. The main reason is that Singapore provides a combination of political stability, strong institutions, regulatory transparency, and investor confidence that is difficult to match.
Thank you so much, Rana. I mean, Dada.
Excuse me, my name is Rana.
Sorry. Mr. Rana, I see you have a question, sir.
I don't really have a question. I have more of an answer to your question to Mr. Zahraan Dada. And I imagine myself as a very successful businessman in the near future, perhaps in a few more years after I'm done studying in the United States of America or Canada. Um, if I had a choice to, does this question only apply to Singapore or and Hong Kong, or does it apply to a broader
Honestly,
term?
if you expand on, why not?
If I were to expand, I would expand to New York. I know. Everybody says it's competitive. Everyone says it's this and that and this and that. But I'll be residing somewhere near North America. I'll be residing in North America in the near future, and it'll be easier for me to do investment in perhaps New York. So in a hypothetical world, or in the future, perhaps I would pick NYC over the other financial hubs. Yes, I know NYC is more competitive than others. It has a lot of saturation and a lot of competition, but I believe it still holds vast amount of potential. I do agree in the fact that there are many other financial hubs that hold more potential, that are quote unquote better in terms of sustainability, in terms of stability. But in my opinion, I would pick New York as my financial hub.
This was honestly one of the most insightful additions on this episode. Thank you so much, Mr. Rana. And thank you to Dada for all of the insightful additions and his anecdotes, personal anecdotes. Super interesting and cool. So it's time to come to the end of today's Dollar Dialogue. I know it's super saddening viewers, but one thing has become abundantly clear, even when considering all the disagreements and debate. There is no single formula for building a successful financial center, and Singapore and Hong Kong have each carved out their own unique path. Singapore has built its reputation on political stability, strong institutions, and policy making, while Hong Kong has leveraged its historical role as an international trading hub and its gateway to mainland China to both become one of the world's most important financial hubs in the entire world. And this is super duper cool. And everything we learn is interesting. Thank you so much, everyone. And Mr. Zaran Dada, would you like to add anything else about the podcast before we end off for today?
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure taking part, and I'm honored to have been here today. Thank you, Supreet.
Zan,
I
thank you.
would
So
just like to add in. Okay, no, Zumar, please.
Thank
Thank you. Zan, thank you so much
Thank
for accepting the invitation to join this podcast today. I really do appreciate it. It is an honor for all of us here, including myself, Demir, Zohan, and Supreet, and Araf that is currently away in the hospital, as mentioned in the uh, introduction of the episode. So Zan, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Demir, would you like to say anything?
I would actually like to say something before Demir.
Of course, Zohan. Please be my guest.
I would like to thank our guest speaker first of all for giving up his time of day and to talk about this important topic with our audience and to discuss it with among ourselves. And we got to know a lot of different perspectives through his comments. And I would also like to thank our hosts, Mr. Nagella, Mr. Hossain, and Mr. Sheikh. The conversations we all had was very nuanced. We had a lot of disagreements. It opened up a lot of perspectives, not only for the audience but also for us. And I appreciate Demir's very lengthy and detailed questions. I appreciate Supreet's host skills. I appreciate Zumar's detailed and insightful comments regarding this issue and how we can tackle a solution. And I am very happy with our beautiful and very handsome guest speaker because he provided a lot of different perspectives throughout this episode.
Zohan, thank you so much for complimenting the all of us. I would just like to say something for you. I really enjoyed, and I'm sure that all the viewers at home really enjoyed how you were able to make this episode way more nuanced. And I would also like to give a little shout out to Demir Hossain here, especially when we started talking about Singapore and Hong Kong. He really played an insightful role when we were discussing the MNCs on whether they would play a better role in Hong Kong or Singapore. So Demir, thank you.
Okay, so it was super amazing hearing about all of you guys, super good. But one more thing we need to give you viewers is the fact that Hong Kong and Singapore have got some competition coming up. We have Casablanca and Kigali in Morocco and Rwanda, all in Africa. Then we also have Gift City in Gujarat, India. These are gonna be crazy financial hubs in the future, and it's super.
Dhaka in Bangladesh.
Of course, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Chittagong.
Chittagong. It's always been.
Chittagong is actually the financial capital of our country.
That's amazing. Very nationalist. I like that. Viewers, for joining us today and joining us on episode number 5, Singapore versus Hong Kong, the battle for Asia's financial crown. We'll see you back next week with another very good episode with another very good guest speaker. Until next time, thank you and have a wonderful day.